Thank you very much, ESD. I want to congratulate you, KPMG and Enrich, for what you said was the 16th year. You said some kind things about me. At my age, people are always open to flattery, and I am particularly so. The fact of the matter is, I've been associated with the petroleum and natural gas industry for only 4 years. And I think in those 4 years, you've invited me and I've happily come. But since you've said nice things about me, let me reciprocate your kindness. I find this interaction with you every year. I came in 22, 23, 24. I'm back again. I find it enriching. Seriously, I'm not playing on words. Why? Because you provide a platform on which the cerebral people who do the analysis, people who are actually involved in the dynamics of the global energy markets, and a host of others come and interact. But more important, I think, the focus that you've had or you are having on encouraging startups, and that I think is the most valuable of all. I mean, what you do is otherwise very useful, but I think what you are doing for the startups. Now, I was looking at some figures in my notes. If you look at what's happened to India in terms of providing skills, in 2010, I know we're going to talk about that later, but we had 700 global capability centers. Today we have 1,800 global capability centers. And the projections that I have, and I think they are realistic, is that these global capability centers will rise to 2,200 by 2030. Now, if 50% of the Fortune 500 companies run GCC centers here, and this has gone up from 700 in 2010, and we are employing 1.9 million professionals and generating 65 billions in annual revenue. By 2030, we hope to reach, as I said, 2,200 global capability centers, 2.8 million jobs, and revenues of over 100 billion. Now, the work that the startups have done and are currently doing, I think at the very least it needs to be compiled in one place to show the frontier areas. I'm not just talking about artificial intelligence, machine learning, but the whole range of work that these startups have done. I think you get a pretty good idea. Our association with KPMG is much more broad-based than the energy sector. But I think the energy sector is a good pointer to what we are doing with KPMG also. I don't know what I'm supposed to say in this, you called it a speaking or an inaugural or a keynote, I don't know. But I can tell you 2 or 3 things which come to my mind. The energy sector in India today is characterized by a certain degree of positivity, and I don't mean any one segment. There was one part of the energy matrix which was always regarded as merely a talking point. I mean the E&P sector. Because whenever you spoke of E&P, I shared with you over coffee just now, when we were waiting to come in, that one of the first pious homilies which was given to me by a professional in the sector when I joined in 2021 was, why do you bother about E&P? There's enough oil available in the world. There's enough energy available in the world. Now, I took that well. I was polite to that person. But I also told myself that if the rest of the story is what I think it is, that you have an economy growing at an impressive rate. I'm not talking about the last quarter results, which are the first quarter of the current year, 7.8%, or the last quarter, that's the previous quarter, which is the last quarter of the previous fiscal year, 7.4%. Leave all that. Even then, in 21. And if all projections made by the International Energy Agency in Paris or elsewhere tell you that the Indian demand for energy will rise 3 times the global demand, or that for the next 2 decades, 25% of the increase in demand will come from India, then you ought to be redoing your sums. And I think that is where we realized that pretty early, that 2006 to 16 was what I call a lost decade, and I'm not making a political point. But what happened after that, I think after 2016, we brought in a lot of reform, and I want to fast forward. What we've done in that sector with the latest landmark legislation and the message which has gone out, and I think that message has resonated, and today the international oil majors, the 4 or 5 there are, there's renewed interest. They are cooperating with my friend Arun, who chairs ONGC, for the rejuvenation of Mumbai High, what they are doing in other offshore basins, etc., and the results which are being reported to the Director General of Hydrocarbons shows that activity. Now, most of you are not only familiar, I see captains of industry sitting here, but let me go to the cleaner biofuels energy. And by the way, I say all this as we are committed not only to availability, affordability and sustainability, but you've got to survive from the present to the sustainable. But our story on the sustainability journey is, I think, even better. We had 1.4% biofuel blending in 2014 when the Honorable Prime Minister took over. We had a 10% target by November 22. We did that 5 months in advance. We have a current target of 20%. Target date was 2030. We've done it 6 years in advance. And I want to put a full stop there. We will now assess where we are to go. All the stories you hear that we are now going to do another leapfrog, etc., we haven't come to those conclusions. The ecosystem is absorbing all this. Equally, all the stories you hear about biofuels being harmful for engines, there's a load of BS and B capital and S capital, and I don't know what that means, but it's an expression I learned. All the energy companies, all the automobile companies, everyone that I know, occasionally somebody will write a story. Oh, I interviewed somebody, he's an automobile engineer, and he said he bought a car in 2021 or 22 or even earlier. That car used to do very well. And then so I asked that guy, politely asked that automobile engineer which car he's got and why the mileage came down and where does he live. I mean, if he lives in Gurugram or in Delhi and goes to Gurugram every day, I can give you 21 reasons why the efficiency of the car will come down by 1 or 2%. I mean, what is all this? I mean, it seems that there is a storyteller out there who's, somebody said, look, let's be serious about it. When we move to cleaner energy, whether it is biofuels or CBG or green hydrogen, that is the imperative of the time. If I were a free agent, I would move away from fossil fuels. There were people, romantics like me sitting outside in the West in the UN system, which I also worked. They all want to set targets. Yes, very good. We have to meet the target. And by the way, India is one of the few, probably the only G20 country which has met its climate targets. But as we move on that, we have to survive the present. Yeah. Now, I hear people say that, you have such a large economy and you can do this and you can do that. First thing that my Prime Minister has to do, because he's a democratically elected Prime Minister, is to make sure no matter what the weather conditions are, there is no shortage of energy in any part of the country. And that our guys ensure, my colleagues who are in the, working in the OMCs, their people, even in flood conditions, they take cylinders on their shoulder to deliver in the remotest areas. But look at the other advances that are taking place. I was with the Honorable Prime Minister in Numaligarh, which is in Assam, and he inaugurated the first bioethanol refinery which is going to make ethanol from bamboo, second generation ethanol. About a couple of years ago, we inaugurated the Panipat refinery, which again is one of our IOCL. The one in Numadigarh is Oil India Limited. That makes ethanol from agricultural waste there, and this one from bamboo. And there are so many other advances taking place. We don't all talk to them till they are ready, but I'm so encouraged by what I see in terms of laboratory results, in terms of conditions. So India is coming a long way. Our refining capacity, we are already, I think, the 4th largest refiner in the world. We will very soon enhance our current capacity from, I think, 260, 270 million metric tons per annum. We have already arrangements in place till 320. My boss asked me, rightly so, what are you going to do with all the refining capacity? Of course, he forgot to mention that he's the one who's piloting that increase, but maybe he was testing me. I said, we'll make more petrochemicals, and that's the right answer. You know, because our petchem requirement also today is less, our requirement is high, but our local production and availability is lower than global average. So I think we're doing very well on all fronts. Green hydrogen is a story which I am particularly proud of. What's happening in green hydrogen, I can tell you, when I started, when we started looking at the sector after the Honorable Prime Minister had announced from the ramparts of the Red Fort that he was going to take up green hydrogen in mission mode. That was, I think, 2 years ago. After that, government brought in a PLI scheme. They brought in a rationalization of how different departments in the government would do it. When I used to inquire, I was told that the most economically priced per kilo of green hydrogen anywhere in the world should be about $5.50 or so. We were determined to beat that. I think IOCL floated a tender, which I think one of our companies, L&T, won. They brought it below $4. And after that, I think HPCL floated a second tender, which was won by somebody outside. They brought it even lower. I think we're at about $3 something now, $3.50 or even below, $3.50, $3.75. I'm very sure that when these tenders are replicated and scaled up, otherwise the price will come below $3, and I can tell you once it comes to what, $2.5 per kilogram, you know, we spend $150 billion on energy imports. You'll see the massive shift that will take place to green hydrogen. Because all that green hydrogen produces is water vapor in terms of that. I know that path has been difficult. I was in Nagaland, Assam, the other day, people were saying we wasted so much time on this and that. That's part of learning. That's part of learning. If you could reach green hydrogen from the day you start and do a hop, step and jump, it would be easy. But, you know, the learning curve is there. But I think I want to conclude my comments by saying the work you are doing on the startups is truly, truly commendable. Because I look at the numbers, I look at what they've done. My request to you is please produce a compendium. No, not necessarily everyone. Some of them may not want it because they don't want, they don't have proprietary, their intellectual property. But talk to them. I think they'd be all happy to figure in a compendium like that, and that would be digitally available. It adds to the knowledge base. Work we are doing in all the sectors, ENP, transition, sustainability, newer and newer technologies. I mean, some of them I can't share with. I can tell you, you'll be surprised at the areas which we are going. And then finally, the Prime Minister on 15th August of 2025, he announced a deep water mission. And I think that itself shows you the priorities. And it's not just looking for oil and gas there, but the products of, what you call it, a blue economy. I mean, these are waiting to be harnessed. There was a time I used to work on them. And today we are in a situation, I know I've got my friends from the fire brigade here. They're always looking for a particular kind of story, which these days I'm not obliging them. Where are you guys here? Raise your hands. They're there. One or two of them are there. No, look, the fact of the matter is that the world in which we live, it is undergoing some turbulence. And I'm putting it mildly. The fact is, we deal with the issues that we have direct control on. But today we have developed the resilience to navigate global turbulence as well. Partly because there is enough oil available in the world. I mean, there's more and more oil coming onto the markets from the Western Hemisphere in particular. There's more gas which is going to be coming on the global markets 26, 27 onwards. That's availability. And no matter what you do, I mean, you can't control it and say we hold it back. No, the guy who's invested has to produce. Otherwise, if the transition takes place, you're left with your asset underground. So I think that is taking place. And the third thing, I think on all other related fronts, we are, if not ahead of the curve, but we are definitely helping shape the way things go. So I want to thank you for your cooperation. I've given you some of my thoughts, partly rambling, but when I came here, I looked around and said, what is it that I can tell them? And I'm open to any questions that you might have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So we want you to launch our TL thought leadership on how the GCCs are becoming the nerve center of the energy enterprise. And especially in this AI age, what is happening, what used to be the front office and back office are no longer
oh, you got it.
Yeah, are no longer distinguishable. They're all coming together. And India is the place, as you mentioned, where all of it can come together, not just for individual functions, for all of that together. This is something which we believe very sincerely, and we believe that by 2030, which is what we are calling out in the thought leadership, we are going to see a complete reshape with India being at the center of it and the GCCs being the center of that massive reimagination of the energy enterprise, which is why the conference has the title Reimagining the Energy Enterprise.
No, first of all, I can only applaud what you're doing. And you and the other international groups, consulting companies, other people, and I have a figure somewhere that half the 500 Fortune companies have their GCCs here. And I think reimagining the energy enterprise is a very apt theme for this year's discussion. I say that for a variety of reasons. You know, I've been a student of historical change, and I always look at continuity and change. But sometimes the continuity we take for granted and we don't see the change. But today I think reimagining is a better term because there's complete quantum jumps taking place in how you deal with some of them. When we were in Numaligarh yesterday, my boss was talking about, bamboo cultivation, and he was talking about, genetic interventions on that. He was talking about how you could, processes, how these are. Now, if you've got a lot of professional people looking at these issues, now I'm moving away from India. These global capability centers are not serving India. I mean, they serve India, yes. I mean, they are located in India. But in any ways, this is something in India which is serving the world. Because these Fortune 500 companies, the bigger names, etc., they use the output or the product of that work in enterprises all over. No, I think that is the change taking place. I mean, we talked about globalization in an earlier phase many decades ago when we thought the world is independent. It is. Global trade, the exchange of goods and services. But where technology and skills come in, I think the reimagining, and for India to be part of that, is both a matter of quiet reassurance. I choose my words very carefully. And also, you believe that you are producing, I mean, I don't know what, I had a figure of 1.9 million staff. Now, if those people are working in the best of world conditions, that's saying quite a lot. And they're producing and they'll learn. I mean, somebody once told me, you brain drain ho gaya, people go outside. I say, hey, wait a minute. Many of them come back, they give ideas back. And the world of ideas and the technology and the skills, they can't be stopped at border measures. I mean, even services cannot be stopped. I mean, goods when they cross borders can be taxed or, you can put tariffs on them. But when services are there, you can supply them remote. You don't need rights of establishment there. When it comes to skills and these kinds of technology breakthroughs, I think that reimagining theme and the fact that what you can do sitting in Pune or Bangalore or wherever the centers are, and you could have the benefit accruing to you equally. You could end up having if you have a conglomerate somewhere, a big physics laboratory in Geneva and CERN is one. Yeah, that's a physical thing. But you can do a lot of research outside. Equally, you do Silicon Valley, but you could also produce that in, let's say, in Thailand or in India or somewhere. I'm saying that is the change, fundamental change that is coming through.
Absolutely, sir. And we are seeing a lot of that. What we are also seeing is those faculties, various things, research, engineering, coupled with a lot of other capabilities coming together and causing that reimagination. One thing, sir, what we have thrown a challenge to ourselves as well as to the industry is to induct the whole startup ecosystem into the innovation ecosystem, into their whole processes.
You please induct them, but just don't bureaucratize them.
Yeah.
Well, I always worry, I sometimes get excellent people from the marketplace who are, brilliant when you talk to them, interactive ideas. And they all remain. They retain their inherent vibrant qualities. But when you take a whole system and make it part of that, and also a little bit of bureaucracy. So use them in the best possible way. I think the strength of these, I hope they don't mind my using word, footloose, or they have the freedom to. I have a friend who's a very famous author. And, he also had a job in the university and in New York. And he tells me, actually, you get more original ideas sitting in the cafeterias outside Paris where intelligent people talk, than you would get in a controlled intellectual property generating environment in a university. I mean, I just had that kind of thought in mind.
Yes, and actually that happens in Bangalore.
Absolutely.
My daughter lives in Bangalore, and all she's overhearing is conversations around some of these.
No, you get
ideas.
affected. You get affected. I mean, for instance, we have a saying that any minister is only as good as his PS. Good. That's good, because I'm not saying very. No, hold on. But a PS also does well when he has a good minister. So I mean, it works both ways. No, because if you are in the company of intelligent people, I know you got my friend here. Anybody with him, he'll learn. He'll get inspired. No, he's smiling. No, its fact is, by association, learning is not a formal process only. There is a very high degree of the cultural environment in which you are, the kind of value system they give. And especially when it comes to innovation, why do certain parts of the country, I'm talking about India, I don't want to, you will say I'm taking a pot shot at someone else. No, why do some cities have developed a reputation, well-deserved, for breeding innovation, enterprise? Because I think you get a system around that. It may take place in the cafeteria, it may take place in other areas. You talk to people, and people do that. They also, by association, improve and then add to the overall process.
One more thing, and I know we are pressed for time, so we are going to have the thought leadership inaugurated. But before that, you mentioned briefly about diaspora and what role diaspora can play. Just wanted to dwell on that.
I have maintained, I was a serving diplomat for 39 years, and I lived outside even after that. I used to always place the population, overseas Indian population at what, 25 million or something? Nobody has the exact number, but it's not whether it's 25 million or 30 million or 18 million or not. If you look at the kind of impact those guys are making, and by that I don't mean just Indian passport holders. A lot of people, for reasons of economic security or whatever, they look at a passport as a travel document, they get the citizenship of the country they earn in, they do very well, and then they identify with the places they live in. But they also have some links to India. And if you see the kind of wealth that they have accumulated, I had a figure somewhere, what was it, about 3.5, huh? Yeah. No, they've done very well. But even if you look at the diaspora, which is not part of the 500 companies, I mean, if you go to, look, my postings where there have been large concentrations of Indian origin people, United Kingdom, United States, okay, parts of Europe, you know, you name it. I mean, I'm not suggesting that there is something special, but the fact is, if you look at the top CEOs in the United States, so many of them were either educated here and went there, or even if they were educated in America, etc. But they all have links back here. Look at the medical profession. When I was ambassador to the UN in New York, I used to have a once a year dinner at my residence for all those very high-class surgeons and physicians. It's very necessary, because if you have somebody coming from India and needs to be attended quickly, you know, that those friendships come in even more handy. Pick up a phone and you say, oh yeah, send him tomorrow morning, no matter what the list is. Many of them years ago started getting back in terms of your thinking. They started investing in people. If you look at the number of doctors who are coming back now, not a reflection of what's happening in those countries, no, because they also feel that they have a duty. If you look at the IIT graduates who went out, the IIM graduates, people from the pure science world, many of them are now, that interactive process is there. And I would like to believe that as we grow from a $4 trillion economy to a $7-10 trillion economy, that free flow up and down, many Indians will want to go there, others who are there will want to come back, other nationalities will want to come here, because all the infrastructure required for that kind of cutting edge innovation, etc., that will be available, and the opportunities will be available here.
Right. Yes, see.
Mr. Minister, thank you very much. It's really very, very intriguing and interesting. I had one question for you. I've drawn a couple of facts from what you just mentioned. One of the facts is we are growing at 7.8.
Last quarter, I mean.
Quarter one.
Yeah.
Another fact is there is global turbulence.
Global?
Turbulence.
Absolutely.
We, as a nation, individually, and particularly you and I, are very proud of the economic resilience that we've demonstrated. How do you see that translating into our strength going forward?
See, rates of growth are only one part of it. GDP will increase. Will it increase fast enough? As the cynics tell me, no, if you don't grow between 8 and 9%, you will, what did they call it? Middle income trap. It's a load of so-and-so. First of all, if you want to grow, we call it Viksit Bharat or a developed country. What it takes to be a developed country in Western Europe or any other high-cost economy for the welfare of your citizens is not the same as in here. I mean, you pay, I know, some kind of equalization takes place, but you want to set up an industry in one very important country which is going to be great again. It costs $3,000 to employ a plumber or an electrician. 300,000, not 3,000, $300,000 a year. Now, if I am somebody wanting to set up an industry anywhere in the world, and that's what global decision making is all about. You see, if I get raw material, let's say in country, hypothetically, Vietnam, and what is the cost of there? Is it cheaper for me to get the raw material from there and bring it to another place, or can I do it there? All these decisions ultimately will have to be factored in. So what you say is correct. We have today a situation where we can say this quarter was 7.8, last one was 7.4. Moody's, I think, no, S&P upgraded us after 18 years. So all I say is that, when people throw statistics at me, in the university we were told there are lies, damn lies and statistics. I don't believe that anymore. If the statistics are coming from a reasonably good, broad basis, you're okay. You're okay. So I think, Yazdi, you're absolutely on target. We will grow. I don't know if the decision making continues to be of the kind we have now. You were talking about global turbulence. I think what the Honorable Prime Minister has demonstrated, we can utilize this turbulence to be an advantage. That's what you were also talking about. When we were sitting outside, what did I say to you, or now I'm growing old? I think we said we are beginning to develop an understanding of the hidden depth of our potential. And that potential is coming out, whether it's biotechnology, whether it is in the digital world. I mean, who would have thought 10 years ago what we are doing today? I mean, in terms of the, your payment systems that you are setting up. I traveled, 39 years I was a diplomat, 14 years I was an ambassador, and I used to have these phones then also. But you have a transaction here, and 2 minutes it comes back on your phone. It doesn't happen anywhere else in the world. I mean, there are little features. So India is learning, India is providing. You go to the remotest part of the rural countryside, and we were there in Nagaland and Assam and parts area. Every little school girl has got a phone. There's a revolution taking place. Now, how will that translate into the kind of society we become? And that is where I think we are on reasonably good ground. Because you cannot have different parts of the country growing. Now, the thing that gives me most satisfaction is in the last few years, we have lifted 270 million people out of multidimensional poverty. That is a fact. And, when I was ambassador in New York, permanent representative of the UN, we were just finishing the MDGs and starting work on SDGs. And about the MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals, they said, well, MDGs succeeded because one large country, they meant China, succeeded in lifting hundreds of millions of people out of poverty with a little help from India, Nigeria, and so on. When it comes from the MDGs to the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, we took care to do two things. One is the MDGs were conceptualized in the think tank of the West, in the OECD. So a lot of it was, you must do this, is prescriptive. If you want to do this, you must achieve this. Whereas the Sustainable Development Goals, we wanted to be from the grassroots level upwards. And once the SDGs started, we had those goals outlined and the subsidiary objectives, it became clear the SDGs will succeed if India succeeds. And because India is succeeding, and you can see the Indian success story all over, the SDGs are also succeeding. Because China is already there. It's technically, they call themselves a developing country. It's the second largest economy in the world. Make no mistakes. But India is not only just succeeding, there's something else happening. Which are the countries with which or against whom we compete? I don't like the word competing again. But which are the countries with which we are normally held in comparison? All right, the UK, when we became the 5th largest economy, we overtook the UK. When we became the 4th largest economy, we overtook Japan. And in a few months' time, we will overtake Germany at this rate of growth. If the next quarter is equally good, at least my oil companies tell me it will be good, so hold them to it if they're not. But UK Japan, Germany, at what rate are those countries growing? I'm not singling them out. They're all growing between 0 and 2%. And you're growing between last quarter 7.8%, previous 7.4%. It's a different ball game. So if this continues at this rate, first, I think this 2047, Viksit Bharat 2047 is just a date, bit earlier. But you will have a GDP of a size which enables your per capita income to grow, to give you the same set of conditions which people have in the developed world. Now, development is not defined anywhere. Underdevelopment is. I mean, you can be a least developed country, your 37 or 38 of them are listed in the UN. You can graduate from that to being a developing country. But from developing to being a developed country, that's what you're doing now. And I think, yes, that is the process. Sorry, I've given you a very long-winded answer, but